My name is Castiel Aguilar, and I'm here today as a representative of Youth United for Climate Crisis Action, also known as YUCCA. We are entirely youth-led and focused in the northern New Mexico region. Our members and our young people, in some cases, live and grew up just miles from this coal plant. This is one of the largest and dirtiest plants in the state, and it is in our community's backyards. P&M should have never reinvested in it when they had the chance to get out in the right way through evaluation of alternatives back in 2014 and 2015. We need to stop investing more money into coal and start investing it into our communities and our beautiful state. I am here to ask you today to deny the application for P&M to abandon the Four Corners plant as it is proposed. We need to be holding corporations like P&M accountable. When they were given the opportunity to leave the coal plant and push for its closure, they invested more than $1 billion, only to now try to pull out. The ratepayers should not have to pay the price of the decisions and mistakes of dirty energy corporations.
It's 10 o'clock.
So sorry. Our surrounding communities should not have to pay the price for the recklessness and lack of cleanup of our land and water that was toxified by this plant. Our governor swears that the climate crisis won't be our next public health crisis. However, continuing to run this coal plant in Indigenous and people of color communities, where it is already causing a multitude of health issues and resource destruction, is already causing both a public health crisis and aiding the climate crisis here in New Mexico. Please support your communities and vote to deny this abandonment application and the transfer of P&M shares to NTEC to prolong the life of this plant. Please support New Mexicans who have fought against the reinvestment and should not have to pay $300 million for imprudent costs. Please make sure that P&M and the shareholders who profited from this dirty energy for 50 years and since P&M's reinvestment pay their fair share for the comprehensive cleanup of this site. Our communities deserve justice. Thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Agui.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. My name is Seneca Johnson, and I come here as a representative of YUCCA, or Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. And yeah, we've needed urgent action on the climate crisis and the rampant environmental racism in New Mexico for decades.
I'm sorry, ma'am, and the rampant?
Environmental racism.
Thank you.
In New Mexico for decades, whether that was 2 years ago when 1,400 barrels of toxic fracking waste was spilled onto Navajo Nation trust land, or decades ago when scientists were beginning to raise the alarms on what the climate crisis would look like if nothing was done. There have been many opportunities and reasons to change, but again, we're threatened by a lack of meaningful and prudent action on the climate crisis. So our communities have been and are still suffering. BIPOC people have been systemically targeted and subject to environmental racism. And in New Mexico, Indigenous peoples are the ones bearing the brunt of the climate crisis. So just looking at the sacrifice zones in our state, and in the area of the Four Corners power plant, specifically near Farmington, there have been multiple power plants residing in the same area, putting out air and water pollution with very little information given to local residents. And you can look at the long-lasting health effects of the pollution of the land, the water, air, agriculture, and livestock, and the impact that's had on these communities. There's been increased cancer rates, asthma rates, kidney failure, and more. And it only makes life much more difficult during the COVID-19 pandemic, in which pre-existing conditions have continued to play a huge role. And it's just been a blatant lack of action on what is actively harming the lives of New Mexicans. And so the Four Corners power plant specifically has emitted over 8 million tons of carbon alone in 2020, and will emit at least 57.5 million tons for the minimum estimated time that this plant would remain open if they're permitted to transfer their shares to NTEC. So I feel it's irresponsible when we know the severity of the climate crisis and the impacts of the power plants like this one in terms of both the intermediate future and generations to come. It's no coincidence our weather has been getting more extreme or that we're in a severe drought. And the science of why and the importance of rapidly shifting away from these extractive industries has been shown time and time again with very little change. Yeah, leadership means facing hard realities and developing solutions. And the harsh reality in New Mexico is that the generations that have come before us have built an economy that's dependent on an industry that is killing us. And it's time to acknowledge that this is a very harmful relationship and it's time to leave it. We can't continue to pay for the collateral damage of industry and public health crises and tax dollars, and we cannot continue to make excuses for and clean up after industry. So we have to find a way to leave remaining fossil fuels in the ground. And we have to value our water, we have to value the health of our Indigenous and other frontline communities, and we have to value our futures. Yeah, and we really need to respect what the science is telling us, which is that we have a little under 9 years left to reverse course and really change the foundation of our economy. Now, I recognize this can't happen all in one go, but these are very important crossroads that we're at right now. And I feel like to give leeway for so much future pollution and contaminants of New Mexicans is reprehensible. PNM shouldn't be permitted to transfer its shares to NTEC to keep the plant open, or to be able to recover the $300 million for the imprudent investment. And shareholders should have to help clean up the site and pay reparations for the community. I feel like anything else would really be a letdown from our leadership that we can't really afford. So yeah, we don't really have much more time to waste, and the abandonment as it stands needs to be denied so that we can move closer to a full closure. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms.
Yat esh e yang inisha, ashi hinishle, na kaibashishim but anijashi na kadashnilla. Good morning, relatives. My name is Yang. I come from the Navajo Nation in the Four Corners region. I was born and raised in the frontline community, Farmington, New Mexico. I'm speaking for my community and Mother Earth. I'm representing Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. PNM's abandonment of the Four Corners power plant and transferring the shares of the Navajo Transitional Energy Company to keep the plant operating is continued genocide to the earth and is currently the cause of health effects and deaths of nearby communities. Right now, all over the world, youth are fighting and finding ways to combat environmental and social injustices. The future is sustainability and taking care of our environment and people. PNM should not be allowed to bail out $300 million for their lack of poor management and leadership in economic and environmental decisions. Our health is not your wealth. 57.5 million tons of additional carbon emissions and 4 billion gallons of New Mexico's freshwater life resource are also under threat. When I was a child, our family would swim and fish in Morgan Lake without the caution and warning of the contaminated toxins in the lake, which was 9 years ago. 9 years later, scientists are saying that we have 9 years to protect the environment from irreversible damages. Morgan Lake is, if some of you don't know, supporting the Four Corners plant, and the plant does not benefit the economy, nor does it benefit the Navajo Nation communities in New Mexico. The Public Regulation Commission should not approve to exit PNM's ownership of the Four Corners power plant. PNM should pay for cleanup costs and health bills that the nearby communities have endured. The Public Regulation Commission should not approve securitization on behalf of PNM. We cannot continue letting PNM and other utilities get away with contaminating the earth and people. You are representatives. You can make the right choice. You can hold these industries accountable. And it starts with you making the right decision and denying PNM's application. I want to thank you for having us speak. It is important to get the frontline communities, especially the youth, because they will be the one enduring and dealing with the effects of environmental destruction. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next up is Salma Arango.
Hi.
Good morning.
My name is Salma Arango, and I am speaking with Earth Care, or I'm representing Earth Care. Um, Mother Nature has provided everything for us for free. She provided food, clean water, clean air, and beautiful sights to see. But white men with money took advantage of her kindness and profited from it. Now she is sick and dying, and so are our indigenous and local communities, wildlife, plants around the plants around the Four Corners coal power plant. Rather than recognize what our Mother Earth, the climate, and our relatives who have died from pollution are telling us, PNM is looking to pass along ownership of the Four Corners power plant and agrees to not push for the plant's closure. PNM and NTEC would rather make some money than save the earth, its people, and wildlife. How selfish could these corporations be? They know the risks. They know what coal power plants do. Why are they trying to find a way to continue this outdated way of getting power when the bad outweighs the good? I come from a small city in Oaxaca, Mexico. My family came here when I was just 3 years old for a better life. I grew up my whole life thinking that we were living living a better life here because here our government actually cares about us. What I realized what I didn't realize when I was younger is that the corporations and those seeking profit run things here. If you care about it, you would not risk us getting asthma, cancer, heart and lung ailments, neurological problems, and many more health issues. You would not sacrifice these communities that are majority people of color. We deserve better than this. This is our land. You already took it without permission. The least you can do is take care of it and its people. Please deny PNM's application to abandon and transfer the Four Corners to NTEC. Please deny PNM's request for 300 million from working New Mexicans for their bad decisions. Please require PNM shareholders to help clean up the damage that has been done to the community, the plants, and the environment. Thank you.
Yate she Marissa Russell Yinisha, Ashihanishle Batani Bashachi Torachini Deshache, Tajini Deshanella. Hi, my name is Marissa. I am speaking for the earth and the people. I am representing YUCCA, Youth United for Climate Crisis Action. I was born and raised on the Navajo Nation in both New Mexico and Arizona. My grandma was born and raised in Fruitland, New Mexico, and my grandpa was raised in Napi, 20 miles from Farmington. I have seen the people and the earth suffer similar atrocities over the years, and it hurts to see PNM's environmental effects caused by the Four Corners power plant. My grandparents had a lot of livestock, but due to the Gold King mine spill, he had to sell his livestock because of how contaminated the water was. I have relatives who live near the coal plant, and many of my family members have died from cancer caused by the nearby power plants and coal, oil, and gas extraction in New Mexico. PNM should not be paid for killing my people and contaminating the land. I know that some of our people are supported due to the power plants, but there is different ways to be supported. The Public Regulation Commission should not approve of the exit of PNM's ownership of the Four Corners power plant. PNM should pay for the environmental and health costs of the nearby community. Our health is not your wealth. Navajo Nation are in support of this proposal the Navajo Nation who support the proposal is very saddened to hear because they're getting money from this and they're benefiting, but they are not thinking of the long-term effects. They are only worried about the short-term effects. And that is disheartening to hear. PNM has already done enough damage to the land, and we should not take the land for granted because we are running out of resources right now. Right now, your children and grandchildren are finding ways to help environmental and social injustices. We can make the change for future generations to stop. We can make the change for future generations to stop using the toxic cycle of extracting. You have the power to stop this environmental destruction. Please make the right decision and hold these industries accountable for the pollution and deaths of frontline communities, and deny PNM's application for abandonment. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in this meeting. Thank you. And thank you for allowing me to speak in this opening meeting. I am not in support for PNM's abandonment for this application. Thank you.